Now, we are very pleased today to have our mayor with us again. He has been so good to come and share with us what is happening in the city and what his intentions are, and we really appreciate Mayor Peter Kerckhoff. I brought today what we've just received in the mail, and this is the spring Raymore preview. And if you haven't looked through yours yet, I'm sure most of you have received this already. You should, because there's much in here that we can ask him more about. But one of the things that I felt when we started opening the book up was what has happened economically, development, in the last short while. And when you actually look at 2 paragraphs here of all the new success stories, things that are happening in Raymore, the new businesses, I was not even aware that we had quite this much.
Yeah, it's the past year or so has been really good for Raymore. Raymore has had in the last 2 years at least the greatest number of residential building permits in all of Cass County. And then with that, we've had some businesses look at Raymore, the number of people that live in Raymore, and decide that, yeah, it would be a good idea to move in. The largest of that is a Sam's Club, which has moved in, and they have a wonderful facility. It's huge inside, very clean and well organized, wide aisles and that sort of thing. And it was interesting. I was talking with the manager of the Sam's Club, and she was saying that there is, as you would expect, they monitor their sales so that they know what to order. And having moved from Grandview to here, they were based their ordering on what they used to sell up in Grandview. Well, it's changed when they moved down here. Oh. And I can't remember exactly what those things that changed, but it was similar to, well, they used to order a lot of hamburger. Now they order a lot of chicken breasts and that sort of thing. So they monitor it real close, and they are very happy with the volume of sales that they're having here at the new facility. We have a new pizza, Minsky Pizza, opened up next to Price Chopper. They too have commented that the volume of sales they had are far exceeding their expectations, which is a good problem to have when you're a business.
I have to tell you this, we went in there and I wanted to see if they kept that whole space or if they just had part of it from the previous restaurant, because that's a big space, the total. And the maitre d' told me that the place had been overflowing several times already, and they definitely kept the whole space. Now that looks good.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they've had to change some of the ways they do things in order to handle that volume of customers. But as a business, isn't that a wonderful problem to have? Too many customers, oh darn. Yeah. And then we have the Golden Corral right over by Sam's and Lowe's. That should open up. I believe the ribbon cutting is going to be on the 20th. They had some challenges during the winter of pouring concrete or something like that. It was just so cold out. But that looks like it's going to be a wonderful business. Of course, our Gene Thompson and the rest of the economic development staff and the city staff is always out trying to find good businesses to bring in. Get the word out there about Raymore and the number of people that we have living here and that sort of thing. There are some indications so far this year, the number of residential building permits are down from last year, and of course nobody knows why yet. It may just be the weather. But it's still, Raymore is a popular place for people to put businesses and residential housing. So it's a good thing. So.
Well, I think you and the economic director of development, and you've mentioned his name, Gene Thompson, you deserve a hand because all this PR you do and promoting of our community.
Well, thank you. And in the Raymore Review, I thought it was really neat that they highlighted the award that Gene won from the Chamber of Commerce, and that to me that just shows how well the city staff work with businesses and the citizens of Raymore. When a director of economic development is recognized for his contribution to the business community by the business community itself, that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful.
Gene will be our guest next Monday.
Oh,
And
good.
He
Oh,
has
good.
come before too. He's been good to come.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good.
What do you have in your mind this morning that you would like to just start going after?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is the council has finally financed a feasibility study for a civic center. That's been a bit of a rocky thing to go through. Some time ago, we looked at maybe building something real small, and then that grew as people, well, we could also do this, and we could do this, and we could do this, and it continued to grow, and it just got too big. Then the council backed up and said, well, maybe we look at something smaller and ask the citizens of Raymore what sort of facility. So the financing of the feasibility study has gotten the green light. We'll be doing, or the consultants will be doing a survey of the citizens to determine what is it that the citizens of Raymore would like and can afford.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to be raising taxes to build, you know, some palatial thing that would be real expensive and not used.
Right.
So that's moving ahead. Last Monday at a work session, I discussed with the council a suggestion that I made. Well, I asked the city staff to look into something. I think it was the fall of last year, and they've been working on it since then. There is a need, a want to grow Raymore through annexing property into Raymore. And we have some citizens that will, every year, will annex a portion of their land into Raymore, which enlarges Raymore. At some point, Raymore will grow all the way out to 291 and south to, oh gosh, I don't know, 211th or something like that. 2 1/3. Yeah. At some time, at some point, it will grow. There's two ways that can occur. One is voluntary annexation. You know, somebody has a plot of land they want to develop. They would like to have water and sewer, and well, come on, join in Raymore and, you know, annex the land in, and we'll work with you to do that. That's one way. The other way is an involuntary annexation, where the city would go out and grab land. I and I think most of the council do not view favorably involuntary annexation. So the way to do it is through voluntary annexation. Of course, right now with the economy the way it is, we're not seeing explosive growth like we did some years ago. You know, 2004 through 2007 or so, where Raymore was growing dramatically. So what I asked the city staff to do is look at the land out there in the unincorporated part of Cass County that is near Raymore, and what sections of land make sense to annex in the future, way out there in the future, not tomorrow, way out there in the future, based on our ability to supply water and sewer and roads and that sort of thing. They came back to the council and presented, here are these 8 areas where it would make sense to annex. Now, what my job is now is to go to the mayors of surrounding cities, like going over to Lake Winnebago and saying, hey, we're looking at growth this way. Lake Winnebago, you've already said that you're going to grow this other way, so let's get an agreement here that this section of land we envision, we agree, Lake Winnebago and Raymore, we agree that at some point it would make sense for Raymore to annex into this area. And the same thing with Lee Summit and Peculiar and that sort of thing. So we'll have these non-binding agreements on the books, so to speak, that these are the ways that we envision growth for Raymore and for the surrounding cities. Belton and Peculiar have already done something similar with they viewed which way they're going to be growing. So hopefully, you know, by the end of the year or so, we'll have some of these agreements on the books. We'll have a vision, so to speak, of which way Raymore is going to grow in the future. Now, and again, I'm not saying that we're going to grow, we're not, you know, by the end of the year, we're not going to grow out that way. It could be 10 or 20 years from now. And that's why it's important to get it down on paper right now that this is the direction for growth. So we got the Civic Center study going on. We got businesses that are doing well. slow growth in residential building, which I hope will pick up, and potential annexation agreements with surrounding cities. So those are the top 3 items. And I'm looking at my notes here, and that's about all I have. There's you know, there's some ballot issues for the April election on some housekeeping items that align our city charter with our city codes. It's interesting because the city codes, as an example, say that a council member or mayor can't be arrears in the taxes, they can't be a felon and stuff like this. Well, our city charter doesn't have the same language, so we're just going to take what's in the city code and move it into the city, or ask the citizen voters to allow that move. A newspaper reporter for the Star got a hold of that and said, well, golly gee, what kind of nefarious thing is going on here? So I got a call from him last Friday, and I'll give him a call today and tell him there's really no story there, it's just housekeeping. So.
Well, there is one charter amendment that concerns me.
What's that?
As a petitioner from the Committee of Petitioners, now the last 2 times citizens have submitted petitions.
You're making it much more difficult for us to participate in the democratic process of local government by restricting the number of months that we can circulate the petition before it's filed. Before, we did not have a filing restriction. Since your ordinance on December the 9th, which places this issue on the ballot as a charter amendment, you're restricting us to 120 days. Well, 120 days means we either have to do it in the spring or the fall because the summer's too hot and the winter's too cold.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There's the 3rd ballot item for changing the charter places a constraint on the number of days that the petitions can be out there. That was there's 3 types of petitions. There's and I can't remember what.
Petition of initiative, petition of referendum, petition of recall.
Recall. The other 2 had a limit on them, and I don't remember. I believe it's a 90-day limit. The council looked at the one that had no limit, which you could conceivably start a petition today and continue over a period of years until you get enough signatures, which would then make it kind of difficult to check the signatures, I think. But the council debated it. The city staff recommended a 90-day period on it.
Well, initially,
the council said, no, let's make it 120 days.
Initially, I think the city staff was talking 60 days, and then it went up to 90. And then in the debate on December the 9th, Mr. Moorhead, councilman in the 2nd Ward, raised it up to 120, and that was the point that council approved it.
Well, and you're right, it does put a constraint on it. It's also something that's going to, it's a ballot item, so the citizens of Raymore will ultimately decide. I will say I agree with it. There should be some limit. The question is, what is that limit of period? You know, I don't like the idea of something going on forever.
Well,
I mean, that just, it feels funny. So there needs to be some limit. 30 days is, that's way too short.
But we have to get 10% of the vote of the last vote for mayor. And in our case, we had to get 1,400 this last time around. Well, we had more than 1,400, but we had too many duplicates, and so we lost our petition. And that was one of the problems that we had. Another problem we had the last time around with the petition of initiative was that we didn't have enough younger people circulating the petitions. Most of us were over 65, way over 65. And we couldn't work in the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter.
Yeah. Well, and that, in a similar vein, it's interesting to see who is it that is participating on the volunteer boards, who's running for office, and that sort of thing. You know, if somebody had asked me 20 years ago, hey Pete, how about being mayor? I would have told them there's no way. You know? As it turns out, you know, I became involved by sitting on planning and zoning, which I thought was really interesting, and then from there, council member, and then became mayor. And when when we have somebody that say has to leave the planning and zoning, you know, they move out of the city, or they can no longer. We always are looking for volunteers to sit on the various boards. The number of people that have volunteered seems to be dropping off a bit. I don't know why that is. We need to get out and get more people to volunteer, because you know, you would like to have a list of people able to jump onto the boards, and it's the same thing with running for office. And it's I find it fascinating if we have a member of the council who has to step down in the middle of their term. We get a lot of volunteers that will interview for the position. But if there is an election coming up, you get so few people that are interested in actually running for office. In the case in point, you know, we have an election in April, and there's only one contested seat. Now, I'm not saying that because we have bad members on the council or stuff like that. It's just that it's a chance for people to participate in the government that affects them the most, their local government. So everybody out there, you know, sign up. Volunteer.
Especially for the boards, because they're not quite as demanding as the council.
Yeah, yeah.
The council requires a lot of extra time and energy.
Yeah, done correctly, done correctly. You know, it's kind of funny, and I've, some of the boards that I sit on now, I'm involved with the other mayors and that sort of stuff, and so I learn a lot from talking to them. You know, they've been mayors for a great number of years, and they all say that, you know, you get people who are aldermen or councilmen, and they really do put in the time to understand all the issues and that sort of thing. And then occasionally you'll get somebody that gets elected to office that is a one-issue person, you know, and they have just that one little issue that they're interested in, and as soon as they get that thing done, they're no longer interested, and you know, they're gonna. Now, fortunately, we don't have that with our council. I think all the council members of council put in the time and effort that they can to do a good job. Which is not to say that, you know, other people shouldn't be running. I mean, it's a great way to participate with your local government. So, and volunteer boards, as you were saying, take a lot less time to sit on, and they can be fascinating. I know I've learned a lot through my sitting on the P&Z, which I sit on again now, but it's fascinating to watch the issues that come up and trying to balance things out and that sort of thing.
We have had members here at Foxwood, residents at Foxwood, over the years that have served on the boards. I'm thinking of little Helen Roach. Helen was on one of the first park boards that we had. And then we had Gene Rutherford on the board of Aldermen. We had Russell Hoff on the board of Aldermen, and before him, I think Joe Stewart was on the board of Aldermen. So we have.
Cox.
Beg pardon?
C.B. Cox.
C.B. Cox,
Yeah.
right, and
one
Wilbur
acted
Stone.
as interim mayor for a while from Foxwood.
Yes,
There you go. There you go.
Wilbur was our mayor pro tem at the time
Yeah.
of the resignation of Mr. Frank Stephophilus. I can't say his name, but anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had Mr. Divalbest for a while as our mayor.
And we've always supported Raymore. This group votes. They care.
Yep,
You
very
know.
much so, very much so.
I want to ask you a question about this future Ridge Park development
The
because,
Hawk Ridge Park?
yeah, now you've had the consultant finalizing the master plan and you're trying to find out what you're going to have first in there, the way I understand it.
Yeah, the consultant, brought forth a wonderful plan, a lot of development in the area, all outdoor activities and that sort of stuff, activities for all age groups, which is really good. And if I remember right, the full build out on the thing would cost millions upon millions of dollars, money that the park board doesn't have. And again, I cannot imagine anybody wanting to do a tax increase to do something like that. So the next step is for the park board, which is its own entity, to decide what sort of sequencing, what needs to be done first, and then how is that financed and that sort of thing. Over time, it will get built out and it will become a very functional park. In a similar vein, the location for the Civic Center, if we do go forward with building a Civic Center, will help define what the center of the city is. Raymore doesn't have a main street.
Yeah.
Hawkridge Park could become that main street. The farmers market is, for a period of every year, has become the center of focus for Raymore, or Raymore's main street. A combination of Hawkridge Park and a civic center, if there's room there, might become the main street. It really depends on where stuff is built.
Well, we have a total of over 70 acres there, including a rather large lake, Johnston Lake. And it seems to me that that would be an ideal location for a community center. And the only thing would be accessibility. We would have to open up Sunset Drive on the east side.
On the east side,
Yeah, and in order to get good accessibility to the area. But that's in the plan anyway, to take Sunset all the way through. And Sunset runs on the far east side of a Price Chopper, where the traffic signal is, and it goes about 2 blocks in now, and it would go further all the way to 163rd at some future date.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, part of the feasibility study is to determine where is the best or the optimal location for a civic center. And part of that depends on what it is that you're building.
Well, at one time we had a proposal on the ballot which was soundly defeated, and that was for an outdoor pool, and that was to have been out at Recreation Park and water park, so to speak. And that was soundly defeated because of the cost of operation, and it was only good for the season, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. But now we need a meeting place for seniors other than Foxwood. We have meeting places here for our community, for our residents. But our seniors in our community, of which we have a growing number, have no congregating place except their churches. Well, you can't congregate in the churches during the week because the daycare centers are there. And you can't have adults coming and going where a daycare center is located because of security. So we're at we're really stalled right now as to where our seniors can gather in the community.
Oh, and I agree completely. And it's not just the seniors. If you have a group that's quilting or knitting or doing any number of things, organizing to do a 5K walk or something like that.
We lost our community room when the police expanded their facility into the community room of the city hall. So now we have a very small facility in Recreation Park, but it's not adequate to meet the needs of the community.
Oh, I agree. And speaking of City Hall, another thing that this was last Monday, the acoustics in City Hall, if in the council chambers, have been such that if you have any hearing difficulties at all, it's almost impossible to hear what's going on in there. They have some consultants come out and take a look at it. There's a couple of issues that are going on, one of which is the paneling that is in there that looks like acoustical paneling turned out to just be fabric wrapped plywood, and it has no acoustical properties whatsoever. And there's a bunch of mechanical equipment on the ceiling that creates ambient noise. And the council is given the green light to go out and put out some requests for proposals to fix the stuff. And we should see that come in a month or so, and then hopefully the council will approve it, and the acoustics in the room will dramatically, well, knock wood, will improve very much. So.
Okay.
That's true, because when we go to a council meeting, it's very difficult to hear, especially if they're not using the PA system.
Yeah. And that's whenever we have people that are in the council meeting that are not normally there, we make sure that they use the mics for that reason. Even a person who is not hard of hearing, it is difficult to hear in there if the people aren't using the mics. So. And that, again, hopefully will improve here.
That's good news.
So.
Is there a price tag that you have an estimated cost?
If I remember right, and I'm doing this from memory, so there was mechanical changes to the ductwork, acoustical ceiling tiles and wall stuff, and then a change, an improvement to the speakers in the ceilings and the mixer equipment in the back room. And if I remember right, all of that was something like $16,000.
Well, that's not too bad.
Well, it's our city manager suggested we might be able to take the funds for that from our building and equipment replacement, which we set aside money every year for that sort of thing. You know, like repairing a roof or something like that. And this would fall within the realm of a repair to the room. So
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Well, something else that I thought was a good thing that's happened, and that was about the police department installing the drug collection unit, that people now can bring their medicines that are laying around the house that you're not taking anymore and all. They have something that looks like a drop-off mailbox, and anyone can safely dispose of expired or unwanted medicines year-round, not just when we have the period.
And the police department has worked with Price Chopper, Constitution's Price Chopper, to hold an event a couple of times a year for prescription drug take-back and stuff like that. And they every time they held one of those events, it was amazing how much.
True.
The last thing you want is people flushing the unused drugs.
And that's what they've done.
Yeah, well, that's the way it used to be done.
I know it. And so this is right in the lobby foyer, and they said it was installed this week.
Yep.
So that you can go in there.
You just go in there and drop it right off.
Yeah.
And for our residents here at Foxwood, Betty, we can take them to our clinic, and Irma will take care of.
And that should be perhaps in the Rolling News or a Friday Flyer.
I think it would be in the Friday Flyer would be helpful, because a lot of folks don't know they can take their unused drugs to the clinic here at and leave them with Irma Riley, the registered nurse, and she will see that they're properly disposed of.
You can also take them to the front desk, and Monique gives them to the security people, and they take care of it.
And speaking of the police department, if you have not attended the Citizens Police Academy, there's one that's coming up. I think it's going to be on Wednesday nights again, from 7 to 9 or something. Well worth the time to attend the Citizens Police Academy. My wife and I attended the one last year. I learned a lot. I'm one of those fellows that never wanted to be a police officer or a fireman. You know, other people could do that. That was fine. I wasn't into it. And I had a brother-in-law that was a police officer. Unfortunately, he died of cancer. But from being around him, I learned some about the police department, but my goodness, I learned a lot attending the Citizens Police Academy. One of the things that I learned was, yes, it was a good thing that I didn't want to be a police officer. I don't think I have that mindset to be able to do that. And the stories they tell us, it's not dissimilar to being around my mother and sister who are nurses, and they tell stories about being nurses. It's the same thing with the police officers. When they're sitting there teaching the stuff, they'll mention something, and then that will tickle their memory, and they'll tell a story about when they were out on such and such a call and that sort of thing. The work that the police officers do is amazing. It's truly amazing. So look for the Citizens Police Academy. It's probably in there someplace.
Yeah.
I highly recommend the Police Academy because I completed that work in Kansas City as a member of the Citizens Crusade Against Crime.
Ah.
And as you say, I learned that I didn't want to be a police officer.
It is in here.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I think it goes for 6 or 7 weeks, Wednesday nights, if I remember, but the information is in there.
And another thing they may
where is
want.
it located? At the council chambers at City Hall. And you'll get to tour the police department downstairs and see the new communications center, which took the community room. And that's something right out of Star Trek. It's the latest, greatest type of doing stuff. It's part of the 9/11 plan with interconnected all the police departments in the area. And if I remember right, as an example, if Kansas City were to lose their communications, police communications, we could run them from down here. So it's all interconnected.
Boy.
So.
Aren't you glad to be a part of all this that's happening
Oh, it's neat
as the
stuff.
mayor?
Yeah.
Really?
And our former chief is chief of police, Chris
Oh.
Yeah,
Turnbull, is very active in bringing all of that
right,
about.
the 911 stuff.
So,
And I think the city staff does a wonderful job publishing this document quarterly, and they also send out a weekly e-news via email that covers a lot of what's going on in the city at a level that other cities can't match. I mean, the staff does a wonderful job getting the word out.